Welcome to Cooking Up Fresh. Recipes and tips for gastric cancer wellness. A live cooking demonstration brought to you by Debbie's Dream Foundation in proud partnership with HelloFresh. We're also honored to have the support of our sponsors, Platinum sponsor Estella's, Daiichi Sankyo, and friend of Debbie sponsor Merck. Be sure to mark your calendars for our upcoming sessions on August 13th and November 25th. This series is dedicated to addressing the nutritional needs of stomach cancer patients and their caregivers by providing actionable information and expert access. We focus on answering critical questions about maintaining proper nutrition during and after gastrectomy, empowering you and your support network. In each demo, our featured HelloFresh meal has been thoughtfully chosen by nutritionist Mary Eve Brown, an expert in stomach cancer nutrition. Chef Zach Eidelman will be preparing an entree from the meal kit, while a stomach cancer patient volunteer will join to help cook and discuss dietary limitations and modifications following a stomach cancer diagnosis. During this live event, you can ask questions about the featured meal and share your own experiences with nutrition after chemo or surgery. As Chef Zach explains meal preparation, Mary Eve and our patient volunteer will cover the ingredients and their benefits for stomach cancer patients. While the featured HelloFresh dish is designed with nutritional needs in mind, we recognize that every patient's dietary needs differ. That's why we'll discuss substitutions and alternatives during the demo. All registrants who sign up by the deadline will receive the featured HelloFresh dish free of charge, delivered right to your door so you can cook along with us. Don't miss this inspiring, interactive culinary experience. Register now for Cooking Up Fresh, recipes and tips for gastric cancer wellness, and take a step toward nutritional empowerment on your wellness journey.
Hi everyone, welcome in to our second installment of Cooking Up Fresh, recipes and tips for gastric patients. My name is Chef Zach Eidelman. I'm a professional chef in the Baltimore area. I love sharing meals with others, and I love really getting into the development of a healthy diet with all sorts of friends and patients. I'm happy to have with us here my old friend Mary Eve and our new friend Essie. Welcome. If you all would like to introduce yourselves, by all means, go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Essie Graeber. I am a stage 4 gastric cancer patient, and I am so happy to be here. I'm so excited about this experience for today.
Welcome, Essie. We're so excited to have you.
Yes.
I'm Mary Eve Brown. I'm a registered licensed dietitian nutritionist. I'm also board certified in oncology. And I'm here to answer any questions that you have about your journey and your nutrition. So please put it in the chat. I just want to say hi, Jane from Rockville, Vicky from Salt Lake City, Gretchen from New York, Patricia from Philly, June from Kansas, and Melanie from Jersey.
Got all the time zones, it looks like.
Yay!
Awesome. So we'll kick things off here in just a second. I just wanted to mention that we have 2 entrees today from HelloFresh. Very generously let us try these out today. We have a pub-style shepherd's pie, and we also have a soup that's going to be a vegan Thai-style curry. I'll also be including just a small recipe of my own. It's a little snack with peanut butter bite, and we'll get to that in just a minute. I always like to start with what takes the longest first. So to that end, we're going to start with the potatoes for the shepherd's pie. They'll take a little while to cook in the water that's behind us on the stove, and you'll get to see some of that action as well today. Essie, if you'd like, we can just really quickly cut these potatoes in half. I'll show you a bit just about proper knife handling. We'll do a little bit of the prep as far as what we're including in the meals today, but I will say that I've prepped everything more or less ahead of time, so just for ease of getting things out of the way. But let's just go over really quickly for knife safety. So I saw earlier you were grabbing by the handle. I know a lot of people do like to do that, but I actually recommend grabbing right from here, which is called the bolster. It's right where the knife meets the handle. And yeah, perfect, just like we talked about. So you're gonna have your forefinger holding one side and pinching the thumb, and it gives you a nice amount of control. And so that the potatoes cook a little faster, we're just gonna cut them right in half. Yeah, and so just make sure, you're cutting past the finger. And we'll just cut these together real quick. I'll give you a couple, and I'll take a couple. And we'll throw these in some cold salted water. Now, certain items you're gonna wanna have boiling hot water like pasta. However, In this case, you're going to want to start with cold water, and we'll just put those in there, thank you, because it'll actually cook the potato all the way from the inside out. And potatoes, of course, you want to have that nice mouthfeel, that nice consistency, and that you really only get that when they're properly cooked all the way through. So I'll just bring these over here. I'm going to throw them in the water here. I will admit, for full transparency, this water is a little warmer than cold, just to get things going a little faster. But I'm going to go ahead and bring it all the way up, and we'll get that cooking. And we'll be moving right along. Were there any questions to start off with? By all means, folks, if there's any questions, feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer it, either myself, Mary Eve, maybe even Essie, if it's about the personal experience of these kinds of diets. Go right ahead.
So we have Lance from Maryland. We have Joan from North Dakota.
Nice.
Loretta from California. Awesome. So there is a question that I'm going to take, and it's about probiotics.
Okay.
So probiotics are the microbiome of the gut. They do a lot of health properties, and we've only really scratched the surface of what they do. Everybody's microbiome is different. People who live in households together can have similar microbiomes. So I always think about, well, should I be taking a probiotic that's not really what's appropriate for me? The other thing you have to think about, if you are in treatment and you're on a treatment that has properties of decreasing your immune system, you don't want to take probiotics. I think the more important discussion is about, how do I feed my microbiome? Mm-hmm. If you feed it healthy foods, you're going to have a healthier microbiome. And so that is fruits and vegetables and whole grains.
Absolutely.
It's the fiber that the microbiome live on. So I think it's more important to eat the food that the microbiome want to use for their nutrition, just like we use our nutrition. The other thing is, if you can move in some fermented foods, that can also help feed a healthy microbiome.
Definitely.
That's good.
As far as the cliche goes, you should trust your gut on that, right?
Yeah, right.
See what feels good, see what doesn't feel good. A little bit of trial and error. Some foods obviously might be a bit too strong, and so we're not going to maybe even try them. But definitely things that you haven't tried before, if you want to experiment, that's the way to discover new tastes, right? Maybe you don't like this particular variety either. Don't forget, as far as vegetables and fruits go, there's a lot of variety out there that folks just really don't realize, because grocery stores focus, of course, on what sells. But, local farmers markets, you can get a lot of really nice selection. So moving right on, we're actually going to go to the soup here, the Thai curry. And again, because it's just going to take a little while to simmer, we're going to start off with some carrots. We'll start with the carrots because, well, they take a little longer to cook. And then I'll actually be adding in the scallions. I've separated the scallion whites, which is the bottoms of them, as recommended by HelloFresh, of course, and the tops. We'll add them in later, just because the green the color will really start to seep out if we're not careful and if we're cooking it for too long. So this will give us the flavor, this will give us the color and a little more flavor. And so here it's starting to sizzle. We'll give it a little more time, and that'll get hot. In the meanwhile, while that starts to build, I'll also grab a bowl here, and I'll just talk through, and we'll hit it in a minute. We're going to make our snack ahead of time and set it in the fridge. This is going to be a peanut butter bite. So basically, very simple recipe, 3 ingredients, well, a few others just for flavor, but we have peanut butter, we have evaporated milk for protein, and we're going to have panko crumbs that I've toasted ahead of time. We're just going to roll those on the outside. Now, I know crunch can be a challenge in these diets, but this is a nice, already kind of broken down material, so to speak. So it adds crunch without too much heft.
I don't think that's a worry. And I have my patients make these and carry them with them to treatment, because you should be nourishing yourself even if you're in an infusion suite for a long period of time, and they travel really well. And then you can add other things to it too, right? So you can add warm spices to it.
Absolutely, we'll be adding a little cinnamon.
Yep,
exactly.
Cinnamon. You can also put dried fruit in it, cranberries. You can put raisins in it. You could put mini dark chocolate chips in it. I love this that you did this, Zach. So the basis of this can have so many different profiles to it, because you can add so many different things to it. But it's a really nice protein snack, and sometimes protein foods are hard to get.
Right.
If you're in a car for a long period of time, or you're in infusion for a long period of time, so they just travel. They travel well, and they're really simple to make and keep in the fridge, but they're really easy to digest at the same time. Essie, did you have any problems with eating protein
I was
food?
getting ready to say, in the beginning, only small amounts, and the food tastes different. So it was a lot of things that my taste buds had to get used to again. And then probably after 6 months of treatment, once it was over the first round, I think that's when I started getting my taste buds. It was so many things that that I used to eat that just taste really funny to me. So I'm glad to have gotten my taste buds back because I do love, I love peanut butter. So I love a lot of snacks with peanut butter in it. So it's just so good to know that you can make, you know, nice healthy snacks with protein in it that we can snack on throughout the day. Because some days I be gone all day. So I like to have, like I try to prep like a lot of fruit and to make smoothies and juices. Those are my go-to to have, you know, throughout the day. But this right here, I can't wait to try this recipe. I never tried the panko. You said you
He toasted it.
toasted it. So how did you toast it? Because I heard of recipes with like oats in it, but I never seen the one with panko.
Zach, how did you toast it?
Yeah, definitely. So very simple technique. We're just going to take a dry pan, no oil or anything, set the panko breadcrumbs in there, turn it up to about a medium heat, maybe a high heat, and it's not too important in that respect because you'll be at the stove the whole time. But basically just 2-3 minutes, give it a little zhuzh every now and again, you'll start to see the color develop. And you want it about the color of toast, right? Golden brown. What's happening there is what's called the Maillard reaction, and so on a scientific level, you're caramelizing sugars in the presence of the protein that's in the breadcrumb, the gluten, of course. Now, on that subject, there are some gluten-free options. As far as panko, there are sort of one-to-one equivalents. I know a lot of times that can prevent you from experiencing the full scope of foods, but in this case, we do have some options for you. While that's simmering, I just did want to kind of go over what I talked about just there. So we talked about cutting these green onions. HelloFresh recommends separating for garnish, for flavor, the top and the bottom. And so we'll cut off that little butt part, and right here where it starts to branch off, that's what we would consider the white. There's a little bit of green, but it's a paler green. This part we're going to save for later, and again, that's so that the color will really pop. If you give it a few seconds of heat, the color comes out, but if you cook it for too long, it'll kind of get this very muddy green to it, and so we want to avoid that.
I want to say something else about taste. So taste is fascinating. A taste bud picks up a sensation: sour, salt, bitter, sweet. And they're on different parts of our tongue, and they're unique like our fingerprints.
Absolutely.
So you can have somebody go through the same treatment as you and have a different experience with taste.
Right.
But food is very complex, and chef can speak to that. But there are all these different flavors in each bite of what we're taking. So if they're not like, yay, picking up everything, they're picking up some things. So it's like I'm eating it, it's not right because of the complexity of the food. And your sister just, Laura says, I love you so much, my sister.
Wonderful. It's always nice to hear
We were
from
talking,
you.
it takes a village, right?
It takes a village,
Yeah,
absolutely.
she took care of me. She lives in California, so she came to DC. Actually, it's been 2 years now, and I had my partial gastric surgery, so she was here to take care of me for 3 weeks during that. So she got to see it all, how I didn't like this and like that and didn't like this. Seasoned like garlics, like high flavors, things like that. I just had to do it plain. Everything had to be plain. I could not do high season, especially garlic. Like garlic just most definitely gave me the nauseous feeling.
That leads into a question for Zach. So how can I flavor my meals without using spice or acid?
Flavoring without acid. Well, a lot of things in my mind can act as an acid. It's just that kind of acerbic, that tang. So if we're looking for different things now, you know, that's a big challenge. You know, I think of anything as an acid all the way from lemon or orange juice, but maybe even a vinegar, maybe even a wine, anything that has that dimension of just making your mouth pop. I know that there are some dehydrated, concentrated products that maybe just a touch will do, whereas some lime juice or lemon juice might affect the palate. To be honest, that's a hard question, and I can work on that as far as an answer. But it really is one of those kinds of ingredients that is hard to replace. But again, you know, play around if there are certain acids that are a little easier on your stomach than others, those would be what I recommend.
Or
going
use
with.
other spices that maybe
Other
aren't
spices, sure.
herbs, I should say, not spices,
Well,
but
both,
aren't
yeah.
spicy.
Yes, yeah.
To flavor the food in the way that's the
So
most
for
appealing
example,
to you.
what that makes me think of, so there are different varieties, for example, of thyme. There's a lemon thyme, which will give you that citrus note, but without any of the acid per se.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And if you don't have an herb garden, grow an herb garden. It's like super easy.
Right.
They're weeds.
Right.
They just need a sunny spot in a pot.
Right.
But they provide so much flavor to what we're preparing.
So speaking of what we're preparing, I'm going to go ahead and add in a few items here. We have a couple of soup bases or broth bases that HelloFresh offers. They have a pho or pho base, which is essentially a beef bone broth, traditional Vietnamese style broth. Usually it has a lot of different spices in there to bring out some different flavors. In our case, we're also adding some vegetable base, and that'll be a vegetable broth is very simply carrots, onions, celery, bay leaf, peppercorn, no bones, of course. And you're just, in either case, with a pho, with a chicken stock, with a veggie, you're just cooking things down, simmering them down until the flavors all build out. So we're going to add those two bases. We're going to add a little tomato paste, and then we're going to stir these all around. A little more salt, a little more pepper. And that's going to get simmering soon here. And then we'll move right on to the peanut butter bites, and then we'll start building the shepherd's pie. Were there any questions that popped up?
So there's a question about, for me, what are good anti-inflammatory foods to consume? And I just mentioned one, herbs. Herbs are like concentrated little plants. So they're very abundant in something called phytonutrients, and phytonutrients fight cancer. So if you're not using fresh herbs, use fresh herbs. Actually, dry herbs can do as well as anti-inflammatory. Other things that are anti-inflammatory are healthy omega-3 fats. So that's in salmon, that's in tuna, that's in sardines, that's in avocado, that's in olive oil. So sometimes we don't think of anti-inflammatory associated with herbs and the omega-3s. Seeds, nuts also have omega-3s in them. I think a lot of times we're thinking about, fruits and vegetables, which yes, fruits and vegetables, antioxidant, but these other things can also provide antioxidant properties. So think about herbs and think about fatty fish. And if you're doing fatty fish, you want to buy it wild caught and domestic. So when the fish is out there swimming and it's wild, it's eating a more variety of food. Same thing we were talking about with the gut. But if it's farm raised, it's getting a very specific food. And so when they look at that at a cellular level, the wild caught had much more omega-3s than the farm raised.
Now, I do know from some friends in the industry that they are working on the quality of farm-raised fish quite a bit, introducing different nutrients to the fish, that sort of thing. But yeah, in general, I do know that it's kind of a rule of thumb to look for farm-raised, or excuse me, to look for wild caught.
And it's more sustainable. So it's better for the planet.
For tuna fish, is it a particular brand that you would recommend? Because I know they have, of course, a variety. Is it a particular brand? Because some have very few ingredients and some have ingredients that you can't pronounce. So what would you, for your expertise?
I love this question. So I always say minimal. The less ingredients, the better it is. But it's interesting because, again, the meat of the tuna, actually the albacore doesn't have as much of the omega-3s as the,
really? And I've been stopped buying the regular one and buy albacore. But just recently, I get food delivered to my home, once a month, and they delivered some tuna fish. It was a particular off-brand. I never heard of this particular brand, and I had I had bought some from Costco, like a 12-pack or a 6-pack or 8-pack. And my son looked at the recipe. He looked at the ingredients on the back of the off-brand case. He was like, "Oh, Mom, this is good." I usually give it to my sister, my other sister. No, my other sister. My sister Stella. Because I just give it to her, right? Because it's off-brand. I'm like, no, I'm going to do the...
I'm a brand name girl.
So I was giving it to her. And so it just happened, my son happened to be at my house, and he looked at the back of it. I had him sitting right there. He said, "Oh, Mom, these are good tuna. It only got 3 ingredients, like 3 or 4 ingredients in it." And then I said, well, check out that one I got from Costco. And he checked it out, and he said, oh, no. They got a lot of ingredients, and I said, "Oh my goodness, I've been using this.
Interesting.
I've been using this for years.
Yeah.
Like I've been using it for years."
Yeah, it should just be like tuna and water, maybe.
Yes.
And the other thing is, that also should be wild caught, and it'll say right on the, it'll say wild caught on the can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're having this conversation because
we're all learning
I'm
together.
most definitely going to be looking out for that because I kind of pulled away from tuna. After everything had happened to me, I kind of pulled away from it. So now I'm going to look for the wild caught too.
So I have another.
I was just going to say, it never hurts to just look into the food you're eating.
Right.
It's the food that's going in your body after all. And so sometimes just that extra step of what really is in this, right? And it's not like, oh, I know sometimes there's ingredients on labels that seem scary, but if you look into them, sometimes they're just simple additives to give extra nutrition, right? To enrich the product. But like you said, even also just learning, oh, it says it right on the package, and you're good from there.
So Jane just asked a question: would grass-fed beef be better than organic beef? So I learned something the other day, and I don't know if you know about this, Chef. There's something called grass-finished. Do you know this?
No, actually, I'm not too familiar with that.
I thought if it said grass-fed, that meant that from the beginning to the end, it only ate grass. No. So you want to look for grass-finished. Grass-finished means from the time they were born until they were processed, they only had grass. And grass-fed beef, again, has more omega-3s in it than commercially farmed. So if you can find grass-finished beef, that's going to be your best match.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah,
happy cows is a happier product.
It's just amazing, like over the years, how everything for the food industry with the organic and the grass-fed and just with everything from milk to meat to, I'm just like amazed of how I came up and now how my children are all grown and they are really into ingredients. And then with this happening to me, all of us are very conscious of ingredients being on the label.
Puts a new level to it, right?
And then it makes me think about like when you go out to rest. Sometimes I'm like scared to go out because I'm thinking like, okay, if you could go to a restaurant or a fast food, are they doing those same habits or that we trying to instill now? So it kind of make me afraid sometimes when I go out, but. Thinking, I'm consciously thinking that, like, how did the, how are they buying their food and preparing their foods and things like that. So it's just amazing how the food industry has changed, and you see it in different grocery stores, how everything's just so fresh and, with the grass-fed and the organic and this, and, it just amazes me how things have came along from when I was cooking for my children 20 years ago.
Absolutely. A lot more choice, a lot more information too, right? So it can be very overwhelming for sure. I'm glad we're giving you some tips here and some new stuff. I just want to check in briefly and let you all know what I'm doing back here while we're having a nice conversation. So the soup is coming right along. I've also started the mirepoix, which is a term we use just for celery, carrots, onions for the shepherd's pie. I started with the carrots again because they take a little longer. So we're letting that saute down. The potatoes are almost ready, and if I take a fork here, many people might know the fork test, but essentially, it's a little hot, but fortunately my hands are, from years of chefing, are pretty good. You'll see it's nice and tender, but we'll actually let it go a little longer because for mashed potatoes we really want that tenderness to develop. But they're almost there. So we have that portion of the shepherd's pie coming along. I've also put the ramen noodles in a pot of boiling water. Once those have cooked off, I'll add them to our soup in question. Mary Eve, I know earlier we were talking about you you admitted that you cooked the noodles straight in the sauce.
This is not what HelloFresh recommends. But myself, I'm like, why am I going to boil another thing?
Have a whole nother pot, right? Well, and it's really up to the cook. But I actually like to do that sort of thing too. Or for example, putting rice right into a stew. It just depends on what you want the end result to be. Now, in this case, we do want the noodles all mixed in. But if you're serving a dish that's more of a a plate,
Yeah.
a bed, right?
Yeah.
Then you do want to cook them
Yeah.
separately. So it just depends. But I actually do think that that's a nice little plus up or modification of HelloFresh's system here.
And we talked before about, like, rice is really, really easy to digest. It's one of the easiest foods on the planet to digest. And if you're having a problem getting the protein in, you're in treatment, maybe appetite is low, or you're soon after surgery, cooking your rice in bone broth. The rice then sucks up the protein, the nutrients from the bone broth. So you're getting protein in an easy to digest way, and it's flavorful.
Okay.
It tastes delicious. So yeah, that's why, in my head, that's where my brain was going. I'm just going to cook it in here because now the noodles are going to be all saucy. It's kind
Like
of
we
how
said before, I think it's best to trust your gut. There really aren't a lot of ways to mess up food so royally that it's inedible, and ultimately the nutrition a lot of the times is still there. And so even if it doesn't look as pretty on the plate as it will today, I hope, it's still great for you.
It's going to look beautiful.
You're really good to go. These noodles, just to touch base, they are just about done. I've had them in the boiling water or simmering water for just a couple minutes, so I'm about to pull those. I also have the potatoes just about ready. I'm going to let the residual heat from the water finish cooking them for a moment. Here in the soup, we're actually going to add some coconut milk and some lime. And of course, I'll come back to that, the rest of the green onions for color.
Zach, we're at 30.
Sure. So I also added some curry powder, which is going to have turmeric in its base. We talked about anti-inflammatory spices. That's a great one there, so that really dovetails nicely with our project. And some garlic powder. We can definitely skip that, though. I think really the flavor profile that we're looking for is the curry powder. That's what gives the color, the flavor to this dish.
And the other great thing about HelloFresh is they give it to you in individual portions, so you can add what you want or omit what you don't want.
Exactly.
Which is really nice. Because
And this was my first time. I have heard about HelloFresh for many years and had friends that tried it, but I never tried it. So when I got my package yesterday and I looked at it, I was like, oh, wow, they put everything individually packed and all that, all the ingredients. So I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, and
So
if you're a
I was
person who is not a big cook, it's a great segue to learn recipes and techniques and things. So yeah, did you enjoy it?
I didn't try it yet because it came yesterday late afternoon, and then I was it was time to go to bed almost. By the time. So I'll try it with my son because he's vegan, and he make a lot of vegan meals, and so I'm sure he'll love this meal.
It's
right
delicious.
Here.
You guys are going to really enjoy. Yeah, really enjoy.
I haven't 100% turned over to vegan, but I do eat a lot of the meals that he cooks when he makes them and everything. Yeah. So.
Yeah, good. And the other thing is, what I thought about this, there was an option to like add chicken to it if you wanted to, if you weren't a vegan, but there wasn't an option to add chicken to it if you wanted to. I thought shrimp would go really good with this.
I actually was going to say,
okay.
I think shrimp would be nice, especially with the lime. You could even add a little more of a dimension of herb. For example, shrimp and cilantro is like a match made in heaven.
Yeah, right.
And cilantro is also featured often in Southeast Asian cooking. So I have the noodles here. I'm going to add those to the sauce. I rinse them off briefly in cold water. Not entirely necessary, but just to make sure they don't continue to cook and get too soft.
Melanie says they made the shepherd's pie last night and it was so good.
Oh, wow.
How many O's were in that so?
3. No, 4. 4. Shit's so good.
I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, what's really nice about these HelloFresh recipes is, as you said, they're not intimidating whatsoever. They're simple ingredients, simple instructions, and I think that's the barrier to entry for so many people. And especially, and I think as we talked about this a little, just the challenge of everyday cooking, right? It's such a barrier to, to do all the prep, to do all of the cooking, and at the end of the day, you're like, oh, it took me 30 seconds to eat. Why did I do all this ahead of time? So I don't know if you wanted to speak on that for a minute, Essie.
Yeah, I had shared with Chef Zach that after going through my surgery and everything, and with treatment, that I don't like to cook as much. Only maybe during occasions. Like I'm all for all the occasions, but the everyday cooking, it takes me so much to get in the kitchen these days. Even with juicing and making smoothies, I'll have all the items and ingredients in the
refrigerator. But you got to take it out of that and put it into that and blend it up, and it's like, oh,
so it's just like to get to that point to do it. I most definitely slack in that area, and sometimes I will go hungry, maybe eat a fruit or something, just an easy way out than making my meals. And I know I need to do better with my meals, but just doing it, it's just a lot.
It is. Actually, a question came through. What are quick and simple recipes that require minimal energy in preparation and provide essential nutrients? I really like the freezer section. And I'll tell you why. One, it's already cleaned and it's cut up. So you can get cut up onions. You can get herbs that are already done. And it's actually better sometimes than buying stuff in the produce section because the period of time of harvest and freezing, it's very short. So the nutrients are locked in. So I can have a bag of whatever in the freezer and I could just take it out and add it to something. They have frozen rice. I mean, so you could actually make almost a whole meal out of the freezer section with minimal amount of work. Because I think the work of standing and cutting, you know what I mean? It's like that's I do all that and I go lay down because I'm so tired from doing all that.
And I know I used to do it. I had 5 children, and so I stayed in the kitchen cooking for them, raising them. But now it's like I can't even cook for one person myself now, and I feel really bad about it because I know I need to do better. But I love it when my children cook for me. It's just so much easier. Or somebody just offer me a meal for the week.
Okay, that's huge what you just said. So if I'm in treatment and I'm not feeling like I want to do anything, reach out. Man, people want to help. They want to help. So yes, but then tell them what you can eat. You know, right now this week, I'm not so much on the chicken bandwagon. I'm not so much on the beef. Tell them what you want. Let them prepare it. But the key is individual portions. Don't do something that's this big. Because I only want to take something out of that big thing and put it into something else and heat it up. Right. So individual things. The other is batch cook. So can I batch cook a whole bunch of meals, individually freeze them, and then on a bad day I can just pull it out and pop it in the microwave? That's another good idea. But if you've got family and friends, they love you. They want to help you. So tell them what you do want and then individually portion it is kind of the easier way to kind of get around it. So freezer section, family and friends. Meal delivery services, I think that's another great way. Zach, do you have any other ones that help with?
I mean, what you're saying is pretty much right on the money. You know, I think that sometimes we try to take on, especially in our society, we pride ourselves on being, you know, hard workers, but sometimes asking for help can really be a challenge, you know. But like as you said, they're your friends and family. Hopefully that's what they're there for. And of course, it's also perhaps a good filter if they're not wanting to help. Just to check in, I am getting the shepherd's pie mix together. I've added the ground beef, a little thyme, dried thyme for flavor, a little pepper. Now, this isn't in the recipe, but this is just a personal recommendation of mine. I'm going to add just an eensy pinch of cinnamon, because cinnamon and beef...
That's old school shepherd's pie.
Yes, because beef and cinnamon actually have a remarkable pairing kind of thing going on. So we'll get that going.
And cinnamon can help with blood sugar.
Say that one more time.
Cinnamon can help with blood sugar control.
There you go.
I do love cinnamon. I do use cinnamon, like even making oatmeal. I use cinnamon and nutmeg in it and put fruit in and everything like that.
And that reminds me too, oatmeal, peanut butter, and we kind of mentioned it a little before. You can go savory, you can go sweet. There's so many ways to do it. And so that's why those are really good bases for building different flavors. If maybe you're not on a level of chicken, or I'm not feeling beef, but I'm not feeling spicy, right? Or I'm not feeling sweet, I'm not feeling salty, what have you. You can tailor it to your liking. Me personally, I actually like a nice savory oatmeal. I put a little pinch of curry powder and a fried egg on top.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Delicious. Wow. What can I say? Sometimes a little soy sauce, a little fish oil. I put fish oil in everything. That's my secret, folks. Fish oil is a great flavoring agent. But I digress. So,
I would never put curry in oatmeal.
Just a pinch. You know, it's a very strong flavor, of course.
Learn something new.
That's what I strive for, of course.
And I tell my people to make Irish oatmeal, which is you make the oatmeal with milk instead of water. That way you're getting more protein.
We just made that. My son was like, "Mom, you could just make this daily like this." We have a big thing of oatmeal in the house, and I think we have some oat milk in the house, and he simmered the milk first, and then we just kept applying the oatmeal, and then we added the cinnamon and the fruit and things.
How was it?
It was really good, and he cut up mangoes. We had mangoes with it that particular day.
And that can be a dinner. Like, I think sometimes breakfast foods don't need just to be at breakfast. They can transcend after that. And they tend to be things that sit pretty well. Right. So can I have an omelet for dinner? can I have oatmeal for lunch?
Right.
You know, can I have
Switching up,
grits? Yeah.
Because so many things have an association, right? Pancakes or what have you for breakfast, that sort of thing. Why not for dinner?
Why not for dinner?
Yes, I love pancakes right about now. That's one thing I'm
Pancakes
enjoying.
do really well, right?
I'm really enjoying, and I add cinnamon to that too. I'm really enjoying pancakes right about now.
Well, and it's also a great item to sneak a little more protein into. You can use yogurt instead of milk. That sort of
Cottage
thing.
cheese.
Cottage cheese, yep.
An extra egg
cottage
yolk.
cheese as well.
Wow.
Yep. Using kefir, which also has the probiotics in it.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah, add an extra egg yolk, add some cottage cheese, add some
Never a
yogurt
bad
to
idea.
it.
Wow.
You're getting that extra nutrition without even knowing that you're getting it. So, yeah, love it.
That's good to know.
Give me all kinds of ideas.
Yes, I love it.
So we've got our mashed
Essie,
potatoes.
there's a question.
Sorry, go ahead.
What was your favorite meal, like during your treatment? What set the best?
That's a
what
great
did you
question.
tolerate the best?
Actually, I'm going to go with pancakes.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I mean, it's just like for some reason, I think because the season flavors wasn't really in besides the cinnamon. And I could tolerate the cinnamon. So I actually think, and I ate applesauce also with cinnamon, but I think the pancakes. I could do that breakfast, lunch, and dinner with a pancake. I really could. And then you can make them, size them as big as you want. Small
That's
as
a
you
great point.
Yes,
They could
you
be
could
dollar
size.
size.
Yes, you
Yeah.
could size them also. So I would say I really tolerated pancakes. I didn't tolerate meat as well. I mean, anything like with the flavor and everything, it's just flavorful stuff just didn't agree with me at the time. So pancakes was one of my go-to, and applesauce. That's I ate, and besides
Applesauce.
fruit, applesauce.
Yeah, yeah. Both of those are really very
Those right there. And to this day, I'm still loving on the pancakes.
So now we gave you some ideas about putting more protein in it.
Yes, I need that. I know
Right?
my body needs that. Most definitely need it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Loretta says, I cooked my raw frozen shrimp. Could use that broth to replace the water in the soup? Yes.
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 Yes,
Yes.
and yes, and yes. Anytime you can replace water, I highly recommend it. It'll add a nice dimension of flavor, and oftentimes it's nothing too acidic, but it's that extra depth. It's everything. It's everything. It's what makes food exciting.
Yeah. So Patricia says, I get meal delivered from HelloFresh, and it's what keeps me sustained, or I will totally forget to cook. She has a question about where do I find out the serving size of turmeric or those anti-inflammatory spices?
I will refer to you there.
I know.
I'm not sure exactly the serving size. For me, it's a very powerful both color and flavor.
Yeah.
Very earthy, can kind of take over dish. So start small.
Yes.
And build from there.
Yes.
It would just be my sort of general recommendation.
Yeah. So the other thing about turmeric, the curcumin, which is the anti-inflammatory property that's in turmeric, if you add a little bit of fresh black pepper to it, it actually helps the properties get into your system. But it has to be fresh black pepper.
Like
there's an oil in it that helps it to get into the system. I would say start with like a quarter of a teaspoon-ish, and then you can go, north of there depending on your taste. I actually keep the root in my freezer and I just grate it into things. Like I usually put it in chili. I put it in soup. Anything that you can have that, like Chef said, a savory undertone to it, turmeric can go into it. And I don't know if there's really like a recommended amount. I do not recommend supplementation in a pill form. I totally say use the whole food form. Right. That's the important part.
That's a good one.
Yes.
All right, so we're rounding out here. We have, just to kind of talk things out, we have the mashed potatoes ready. We're going to lay that on top of the beef and vegetable for the shepherd's pie. And that just has a little water. I know I just said we're supposed to use stock, but in this case I'm going to follow the instructions. We'd add a little water just to bring all those flavors together, all the stuff that's stuck to the bottom of the pan, that sort of thing. And then we'll lay the mashed potatoes on top. We'll put it in the oven with some cheese, and that'll finish up. Our soup is ready, and we'll dish that out in just a second. And we're going to go ahead and talk through this peanut butter bite. So basically, almost like a cookie, but not quite. Where there's no flour in here, of course. And we're going to kind of treat, this here is evaporated milk. It's going to be really a nice addition of protein. Gives almost a sweetness to it, right? And but not anything as strong as sugar, and a little bit of structure, like I said. So we're going to sprinkle some in. And like I said, we're going to treat it like flour, so we'll add it as we need.
Do you think you could use like a protein mix for that also?
Definitely,
Absolutely.
yes. And in fact,
Yeah.
Mary Eve, if you wanted to jump in, I know you mentioned
Yeah.
the instant breakfast,
Yeah,
right?
so if you do have a lactose intolerance, this has lactose in it. But you could totally use a protein powder, a pea protein powder, a whey protein powder. Also, the Carnation Instant Breakfast powder goes into this really nicely, but that also has lactose in it. So there are totally lactose-free options in it. Yep.
Like with the gluten-free panko, definitely make sure you are abiding by the terms of your diet, your needs. I just added a little maple syrup because me personally, my family's from Canada. I love maple syrup in anything. And this is 100% pure, which I always strive for. I know a lot of products, just be careful and look. It says pancake syrup. That'll be more of a cornstarch base. But with that said, I'm just adding a little bit for sweetness. We can add a little more for structure in a minute, and we'll see how that goes. And also just a splash of vanilla extract.
Did you say you could put honey in it? I missed
Definitely.
that.
Honey, agave, any of these will do, really. And like I said, it's and just a pinch of salt here, a pinch of cinnamon, and that nice warming spice will go well.
Melanie's husband made her the soup today, and he added shrimp. She said it was perfect. She hasn't had a stomach in 16 years.
Oh wow! Well, I'm glad. I'm glad we our thought that shrimp would be a good addition was correct, or at least for them it was correct. I'm glad they're enjoying. So we're just going to stir this around. It'll start to get a little tacky. The peanut butter will absorb the evaporated milk. You'll see it's starting to not quite be able to be balled up, so we can play around. We can add a little more maple syrup, that sort of thing, and I believe we will add a little here. Now at home, if you'd like, by all means, get your hands messy. I would recommend if you're going to, and we will ball these up by hand, but if you're mixing by hand, I would recommend getting your hands a little wet or coating them with oil, and that'll help to keep the very sticky peanut butter from sticking to your hands. And actually, something else that will help, kind of like a dough, we're going to let this sit for a minute and let it all kind of come together. I'm going to come back here and get the shepherd's pie in the oven.
So is it a crust involved with that a shepherd's pie?
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to create a crust. So we're going to take this mashed potato and lay it on top.
I never had shepherd's pie.
And it's pretty much a one-pot shepherd's pie. Now, some people like to put it in a puff pastry as well, or a pie crust. Definitely fine to do. This is sort of a one-pot, less mess, that sort of thing. Nice thick nice thick mashed potato. I will say I added some butter and some sour cream as per the recipe. One thing I can recommend is if you'd like to freeze your butter ahead of time, it actually releases a little more evenly into the mashed potatoes. So take that for what you will. Not quite a perfect top, but we'll make it work. We're going to take
Jane's asking, can I use almond butter instead of peanut butter?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. They have a very similar consistency. That it's going to hold about the same. Me personally, just anecdotally, like we talked about personal preferences, I love almonds, but when I eat too many of them, I get a really bad stomach ache. Yeah. So that will just be up to your preference, but definitely. So we'll hit this with some white cheddar right on top of the mashed potatoes.
And if you have a lactose problem, you don't have to add the cheese.
Correct,
So again,
yes.
HelloFresh, you just,
Either way,
use
what
the
we're
ones you want.
accomplishing here, and we're going to bring this into the oven. We've got the oven at about 400. You could bring it all the way up to, let's say, a broil, because we're not going to have this in here for very long, just to give it, like you said, a crust. And so either with or without the cheese, the very top of the surface, the water's going to cook out, and you'll get that beautiful crust.
All right.
So that's
Elizabeth
working
says,
for
I
me.
can't eat pancakes. So, right, everybody's individual.
Right.
I get it. So I get it.
Yeah, that
Is
really
she-
will be up to the
Can we
individual.
ask a question for her to respond back? Or?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering how far she was out from her surgery.
Yeah, or maybe in treatment.
So we're coming up on these being ready to form. Just added a little more evaporated milk. And all we're going to do is ball these up, kind of like Play-Doh when you were a kid. And we're actually going to roll them in some panko. So I have some toasted panko here. Again, we're always building flavor. So all I did was take a dry saute pan with these panko crumbs and just rolled it around. And here we are. See, there's a little bit of brown to it. You don't want to do too much, of course, both because you don't want to burn it, but also you want to kind of keep the original texture.
Don't walk away from them. Don't walk away from them when they're on.
Yes, no, I can't stress enough. Don't walk away from the panko crumbs. It'll only take.
Did you have to crush them up, or
2
they
minutes.
was already?
No, they come just like this. Okay. In fact, it's actually a very fascinating breadcrumb. Panko itself comes from a specific technology which cooks bread without a crust, and so they pulverize the entirety of it, and that's why it's nice and uniform. So people love to use it in all sorts of things. So this looks like a nice consistency. I'm going to wet my hand, try my best.
They look like crushed nuts.
Yeah, and actually, if you do enjoy that texture, that flavor, that
you could definitely
product,
do that too.
Yep, we could definitely do that, or even mix them. So you have a bit of different kinds of crunch. So you see we got balled up. It's a little tacky, but that's okay because we're about to cover it in the panko. And now it's a little, you'll see it's kind of setting into my hand. If you would be so kind as to pass me the top plate there, just the top plate. Beautiful. And so we're going to set that. We'll make a few more. And I'll continue to wet my hand here. You mentioned pan spray as well as a handy...
Yeah, so when I make these, or I tell people to make them, I just do the vegetable spray on the hands. That way they won't stick.
Yeah, okay.
So you can see here the difference. This is the unwet hand, this is the wet hand. It's going to take a little stick to there, so. Now, like I talked about before, maybe they're a little misshapen, but they're just as delicious. Yeah. So we'll make just a couple more, and we'll have those set, and we'll go ahead and get everything plated up. So yeah, we learned so much about you today, Essie.
Right.
Were there any questions on the line?
So one of the questions about, and I think this is for me, what are the must-have pantry items for someone focusing on recovery-friendly cooking? I think nut butters. I think white rice. I think bone broth. I think, again, the freezer section of easy-to-digest vegetables. I think of, and I know meat was not your thing, but I think ground meat and ground turkey, ground chicken can sometimes be easier to eat than like sitting down to a piece of meat. I think the tuna, I think the salmon. You need to get the protein in.
Okay.
And those are, canned chicken, canned tuna, canned salmon, the peanut butter, the nut butters. They are all proteins, but you don't have to do much to get them to the plate.
Okay.
You don't have to spend a lot of time with them. So I think of those things. You can also, like yogurt, if you can do dairy, yogurt or cottage cheese, if you can do dairy. Those are things that just can live in the fridge, and I can just take a spoonful of it. Because sometimes, and I don't know if this was your case, but people sometimes with total gastrectomies, it's like I'm taking a tablespoon at a time. I'm taking a tablespoon. I can't even sit down and do like a quarter of a cup or something. So just something small like that. I think hard-boiled eggs are easy. They can live in the live in the fridge. Yeah. Did you have any go-tos like that?
Mainly just the applesauce. After my surgery, the applesauce, Jell-O. My sister would make me the pancakes, and she would make for breakfast also some her little specialty and her scrambled eggs. She would make a little meal, but it was very light stuff I ate in the beginning. Very, very light. I would drink my protein drink that I would get from Costco. But very just light stuff in the beginning. Yeah. Most definitely like the first month, light. Like they made some crackers, really no hard. I mean, even though I could eat solid foods, the doctor told me you would leave out the hospital eating solid foods. I just stuck with the light stuff. I was just kind of scared to eat because I didn't want to feel, get sick, feel sick. So I just stayed with light stuff. I didn't, and just try to drink. She told me try to get 4 protein drinks in a day since I wasn't really eating as much.
Yeah, because drinking things can be easier sometimes than eating when you really don't want to eat.
Right,
I think that's
and you're in pain.
Yeah, right.
Right, the pain. But I do like, I did like also apples and peanut butter, sliced apples and peanut butter. I did like that. And bananas and peanut butter and putting cinnamon on it. I did like that.
The cinnamon. Zach, there's a question about how much evaporated milk, but I think it's basically to when it gets to the consistency that it needs to be.
Yes, I would love to tell you. I would say it's about a cup, maybe a little under for the amount I used, which was about a cup and a half, 2 cups of peanut butter. So about half as much is the ratio, 2 to 1. But I don't quote me because, again, as you said, it's all about the consistency.
It's the feel of it.
Exactly. So we've got some delicious, soup coming up. And that aroma is just delicious. Now, one thing I can say, you see the noodles are coming right off my ladle here. If you'd like, you can also come in with a tong, if I can find it, just to get a decent portion of noodles in there. And then you can use the ladle separately. And we'll get a little bit in there. Now you might wonder how our plates always come out so clean from the professional kitchen.
Do your chefy trick.
So really, they'll come out just like this until we give them a nice last touch. You'll take a damp towel, paper towel, or otherwise. Sometimes I put just a splash of white vinegar as well.
Oh, white vinegar.
Just a splash, and it can help get off some of those more staining colors. And so we'll just make sure the rims are nice and set. So we have these delicious soups ready.
Wow.
Bring out the shepherd's pie here in a moment. I'm going to set these plates out. Now, full disclosure, the peanut butter balls, I know I didn't mention how long they'll take. About 5 to 10 minutes really is all you need. If you want to speed things up, you can also put them in the freezer, but I wouldn't keep them in the freezer. I experimented the other day just to see, and
What happened?
they kind of get mealy. They have a very not good texture to them. So just take that for what you will.
Okay. And I think that they could stay in the fridge for 4 or 5 days. I don't think that would be a problem. 4 or 5 days in the fridge.
Oh yeah, in the fridge, no problem at all.
So no bacon to it. It's just put in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything other than...
Oh, wow.
Coming around hot. All right, now if we had left this in a little longer, we could get it to the point where you start to see some browning on top. You get, again, that caramelization. But we've achieved a nice mix of beef and potatoes. Nice hearty meal for really any season. And we'll just give a nice scoop. Again, your portion is your preference, and you can sort of play around with that, see how much you can eat. Or again, these are also keep very well. A soup in particular, any kind of soup is going to be better the next day, is the saying.
Right.
Because the flavors are going to continue to develop.
I always heard that. Even with spaghetti. Like meals like spaghetti.
Yep. There are a lot of meals that HelloFresh provides that turn out great, reheated or brought up the next day. One's a little smaller. So here we have our 2 HelloFresh items. We have our pub-style shepherd's pie. We have our Thai-style curry. Of course, like we talked about, it's a vegan dish. Any protein will work well, although I think shrimp or chicken would probably be the best too.
I think so, yeah.
A beef is just going to kind of bring...
Oh, tofu.
Oh, of course, tofu. If you want to split the difference and keep it vegan, in fact, but add a little extra protein. For the shepherd's pie, some folks out there might know, depending on the name of the pie, it actually changes the meat. So, for example, a cottage pie will be using lamb instead of a shepherd's pie using beef, that sort of thing. But other than that, we have these set, and I'm just going to lastly bring out
You did
our
it
peanut
all
butter
within an
bites.
hour.
You learned it, Ray.
You did it.
Oh, yeah.
So I need to be able to cook
Here
a
we are,
beef.
last
Cook a
but
beef.
not least, got our delicious peanut butter bites. Now, once they fully set, and again, out of the freezer or fridge, you can eat them right away. I think of an analog to them is these Smucker's Uncrustables, where when you pull them out, they're initially kind of hard, but you let them, settle in a little, and they have that nice crunch to them.
Yeah.
And there we are, folks. We've got our delicious meals. I really want to thank both our sponsors, of course, and HelloFresh, our partner, for offering these delicious options. I mean, my mouth's watering right now. The aromas are filling the room. I know. I think we're all really excited to dig in. were there any other questions that we could answer before we sign off?
Well, there's. I think we asked some really, really good ones here. Let me see if there's other ones for Essie, because I want her to get her talked.
Well, if you want to just take a minute, I just wanted to say also, folks, never be afraid to try things out, right? That's, I think, the message I always give in these presentations. But I really do want to stress that your nutrition, your diet is your own. And ultimately, no one will know your palate, your gut better than you. And so I wish you all the best of luck and the best of fortune finding what works best and what brings you real healing, real nourishment.
Yeah.
Right.
Essie, do you have any last words?
I just want to say that I'm very impressed that we made a whole meal within 1 hour. That's what I'm trying to get in the kitchen for 1 hour and get out, and then I probably will feel more to wanting to cook for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Left
yes,
over.
I think, yes, I love it. 1 hour for everything.
1 hour for everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
And just goes to show it really can be easy.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
well, I guess we'll wrap it up there. Folks, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you later on this year for our third installment.
August
in August, yeah.
August 13th.
And we're very much looking forward to it. Until then, take care, be well, be safe,
Yes.
and we'll see you very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you. This
Good
was
job.
nice. Yes, really nice.
Thanks, everyone.